Good morning, Toastmasters. About 100,000 years ago, an anonymous benefactor of mankind figured out that if you put this raw hunk of meat on the fire, it actually tastes a lot better. 10,000 years ago, another genius that we know nothing about, he discovered that if you put a seed in the ground, it may start to sprout. And hey, we don't need to roam the plains any longer. We can stay put and we can grow stuff. 6,000 years ago, another person, another genius, figured out that if I make something round out of a rock here and put it on a little wagon, you know, it's a lot easier to move things around. Well, he invented the wheel. These were monumental inventions, discoveries in the early days of mankind. But it didn't really change things a lot. For the first 100,000 years, in terms of human progress, it was kind of a flat line. But then something happened. About 250 years ago, in the 18th century, mankind hit the age of enlightenment. Now, it didn't happen overnight. There was a lot of build-up and foreplay the centuries before. But something happened that changed things dramatically. And if you want to just pick one year as a representative year for this period, I would pick 1776. We already heard about the Declaration of Independence. That was something that set men free to do what they wanted with their lives. They had rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Yes, we're still struggling with those things and improving them, but it did make a huge difference politically. Also in 1776, Adam Smith wrote The Wealth of Nations. And that's where he said, and I paraphrase, that the barber and the butcher and the baker and the brewer, they don't do their things out of benevolence for us, but they do it out of self-interest, and they trade with you. And he didn't coin the word, but basically what he did was that he discovered capitalism for the rest of us. And thirdly, in 1776, James Watt commercialized the steam engine, which really set in motion the Industrial Revolution. As a result, over the past 250 years, this flat line have gone up like this. And we live in the best of times, I'm arguing. And that is thanks to all of the scientists, inventors, discoverers, product developers, software developers who spend their lives, who spend their days on tinkering and figuring out new things for the rest of us. And I have a feeling that we tend to underappreciate this. We talk about the polarizations politically, the divisions, the threats of authoritarianism from the left and from the right. And yes, they are real, but there is so much good stuff going on. So I just wanted to give you a couple of examples, everyday examples of things to wonder about, to be wondrous about. The first one is this one, box of matches. Actually a Swedish invention, the safety match from 1862. Now, they are still around. Some people may use them. We have them as spares at home. But as the 19th, 20th century went on, people who were smoking, that of course, there were inventors who invented lighters, became the disposable lighter. We don't use those at home. We basically use things for lighting candles. And these days, of course, It's electronic. Have you seen one of these? $10 on Amazon. There's a little switch here you flip, you see a little blue light. There are 2 electrodes up here that come out, and you do like this, and you light your candle. And there is a USB port. So you just plug it into the wall when it runs out of juice. Someone somewhere has been sitting and figuring that out so that it's easier for the rest of us to light our candles. Plastic wrap. What a wonderful invention. Have you ever thought about how this really thin film here, how it's made? Go look it up on YouTube. Imagine the thought, the science, the chemistry, the inventiveness that went into creating this in the first place. But that's not the little piece that I want to point out. You remember, those of you who are old enough, you remember the first rolls coming out. And you had this jagged paper edge where you had to rip it off like this. And it always crumbled up, and it didn't really work well. And I can see the people at Glad, as happy as they were about having this product to launch. They were not totally happy with that. Well, the next step in the process was it? It was this jagged little metal piece that was sitting on the edge. And now it was easier to rip off the plastic. But it was still not perfect, right? So someone in the R&D department, maybe it was at Glad, maybe someone else, they came up with this. You pull out a little bit, you put it over there, and then you have this slide cutter that goes across like this, and you get a perfect cut. Isn't it wonderful? One of these little things that we don't think about, but that make our everyday better. And finally, last but not least, I mean, you can wonder about how toilet paper is made in the first place. And think about the chemistry that goes into this roll of Charmin that is so soft to the touch. I mean, if you ever started on Charmin, there is no going back, okay? But what I wanted to point out here is this. Have you ever experienced this? You tear it off along this perforation here. And I mean, that's another invention, just the perforation of this. Fantastic step forward in the history of mankind. But when you do that, you often end up with this little piece hanging here at the end, right? And it's kind of annoying. Well, I have news for you. Because again, the good people, the inventors, the R&D department at Procter & Gamble, they have now come up with a wavy perforation. And gone are the days when you end up with a little piece at the end here. Can you just imagine? It's such a simple, such a small thing, but you can just think about the people who have been bothered by this straight perforation for years. And then someone with physics or whatever came up with, this wavy thing. And suddenly it all works. Great step forward. So I urge you, Toastmasters, to stop and smell the inventions. Yes, we're being told to stop and smell the flowers. But look for those little things in your everyday. Because despite everything going on and we think the world is coming to an end, progress is moving on. And we see it every day. And if you pay attention to those little things, I think that will make your life happier as well. Good morning.